Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Secretary White, as I'm sure you're aware, Siemens Mobility recently announced a new plant in Lexington, North Carolina to manufacture and maintain train sets. From your perspective at NCDOT, what will the impact of this new facility be for our state? And how has the guaranteed passenger rail funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law influenced or leveraged business investment in our state?
Thank you for the question. So Siemens Mobility broke ground on their new plant in August of 2023. It'll be a $220 million facility in Lexington, North Carolina that will create more than 500 jobs by 2028 and is estimated to grow the state's economy by $1.6 billion over the next 12 years. They sought to build a large-scale manufacturing facility on the East Coast because of all of the orders for new intercity passenger rail cars. We are very excited for the state of North Carolina to see the supply chain that will grow around that investment, bringing even further jobs and opportunity to North Carolina. And we're excited to see those trains roll out of North Carolina-made plant up and down the eastern seaboard, including when our new trains arrive in North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, North Carolina received 7 Corridor ID grant awards last year. How do you anticipate this funding improving North Carolina's ability to invest in and accelerate the development of passenger rail in our state?
So Corridor ID is really important because a community needs, as Stephen had said, the community needs to understand what is a project going to cost. The Corridor ID first step initially unlocks $500,000 worth of planning funds so that we can start to work with communities to define what the service outcomes are that they would like to see and what the infrastructure investments will be that are needed to make that happen. So with each of our communities that have been admitted into the Corridor ID program, we're now meeting with them to understand what is the kind of service outcomes that they would like to see, what is the match that they will need at what time in this process. I would give as an example when we were meeting with the community of Fayetteville recently. They are very excited to have their corridor admitted into the program. They see a connection between Fayetteville and Raleigh as really important to their military community. They don't get direct flights out of Fayetteville to DC, which is a common path of travel. They lost their direct flight some years ago. And so they see this as an opportunity to do a ticket on a train from Fayetteville to Raleigh, and then they can go from RDU to DC as a solution for them. When we build out the S-line, they're more excited that they can stay on that single seat train and go from Fayetteville right to DC. But what we're doing with them is saying, we'll do this first phase of initial planning with you, and then we can tell you when you'll need your 10% match for the next phase of planning and how much that will be so they can put it into their local government budget cycle. And then we can say when you get to the construction stage, that'll be 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds, and this is how much that will be and when you will need it. It's that kind of structured planning that will tell a community what has to be built, how much it will cost, and what the timetable is to when they will need that funding. So we're doing that with the Wilmingtons, the Asheville's, the Goldsboroughs, the Fayettevilles all across our state. And that kind of robust planning, I think, will help us be able to deliver more projects on time and on budget. I will have to brag a little bit on our rail division in North Carolina. During the earlier era investments, the state of North Carolina won a $500 million investment to improve the corridor between Greensboro and Charlotte. It was a $500 million investment, and we delivered it on time and on budget. We delivered it $3 under the grant that was given to us. We attempted to spend the last $3, but could not find a way to do that within the rules. So we feel really confident that when we take these corridors through Corridor ID, we'll be able to help deliver those projects.
Thank you. And finally, can you speak a little about the ways in which North Carolina's Department of Transportation works both with Amtrak and local communities to ensure that train service will benefit our communities back home?
It's really important for us to listen to the communities and understand the service outcomes that they need. We're starting to explore a 6th frequency between Charlotte and Raleigh, and so our first step will be to go to the communities along our main corridor between Raleigh and Charlotte and understand how do they use our train? How would they like to use our train? We have folks who commute between cities for their jobs. We have folks who use it to get to healthcare. We have folks that use it to get to college. Our main corridor touches about 22 colleges. So understanding what times of day they travel and how they want to use it will be a first step in ensuring that it meets their traveling needs. And then we'll work with our freight railroad partners, with the North Carolina Railroad, and with Amtrak to figure out what kind of infrastructure investments are needed to create that kind of capacity to unlock that additional frequency along the corridor. So for us, it's really about the partnership with our partners. In North Carolina, we approach rail projects because we run on freight rail tracks. We approach it as, how do we create a win-win? How do we create the ability for freight to not only continue to run its freight, but to grow its freight opportunity, because manufacturing is a key part of our economy in North Carolina, while also building the additional capacity to add more passenger rail. So we really take, I think, a partnership approach to what we do.
Thanks for that, Mr. Chairman. That's my time. I yield back.